The Quinfall is a brand new MMORPG just released into early access yesterday on the 24th of January. And I will say that it is off to a pretty rough start, pretty shaky start. Now, the game does come with a price tag of $20, and being the utmost saint that I am, I went ahead and bought the game and played some of it just to help you make a decision if this game is going to be for you. In its current state right now, I will just go ahead and tell you, I don't recommend it, especially if you have any kind of expectations of what an MMO should be. However, I'll cover my experience as well as covering the game after I've put some more time into it. This is very much just preliminary, what my first 5 hours were like, and yeah. Here we go. One thing to note about MMOs as they are launched is that they typically have a rough start. And I don't mean it in the sense of like the gameplay is bad or the story's bad, nothing like that. It's just usually there's so many people trying to access it all at once right there at the get-go that a lot of the times, most times, the servers just can't handle it. And I mean, we even saw some of that similar to with Path of Exile 2 when it released and into early access. We'll go quite a bit of login issues, but they were remedied fairly quickly. Now with MMOs, it usually is that's more the same. You'll have a bunch of people going in. However, there's only 3 servers that you can log into, either Asia, European, or North American. That shouldn't be too terribly difficult for the game to handle. However, with 3 servers splitting out about like 6,000 people at its peak, it made for a tough time. Actually, I probably spent about 20 minutes just trying to get in to create a character and log into the server. After going through that bit of a hiccup, we actually got to the character creation screen. And this is something that I will say about this game that I very much enjoyed. The character creation screen is super in-depth. You can literally make anything you want. You want to have fuzzy hair, you can have fuzzy hair. You want to have a bald head, you can have a bald head. You want to look like Shrek? You can make your guy look so vascular like he just hit the gym and you can see every vein in his body. Yeah, it's really, really in-depth, and this just shows me that they spent a lot of time here. They spent a lot of time setting this up and working on this particular aspect of the game, which is good. It's a good landing experience because then, okay, you're creating your fun character. In my mind, they probably should have put more of their time and effort into the gameplay, but I will cover that once we actually eventually get there. So, of course, with any MMORPG, I have to create my character, which is the bald head and the stash. Now, I went into this game blind. I haven't really paid any attention other than knowing that it's an MMORPG coming up, and there was no class choices. So you don't pick a class per se. This system in this game, which I would find out later, is very much like New World. New World where they have the weapon system, and I think Throne of Liberty does that as well. But it's very much of that same mind, is that your weapon defines your class. And right out the gate, once you actually are able to get into the game, you get all the different weapons at your disposal to start out with, and you can start working on them from there, that's a lot of fun. I thought that was a really nice touch. So we will go ahead and create the character. We're ready to go. Here we log in, and I get disconnected from the server. I have to restart the client and then log back in. This process goes on for about another 10 minutes. We're up to 30 minutes of just like issues and delays, login issues. And then once we actually get there, I'm able to log into Caffeinated Dad, into my man, my boy. I got to log into my boy. So we get into the tutorial screen, and as it's going through, which is this, I will give the tutorial credit too. It's actually very nice. It highlights all the different aspects of the UI. It bounces back and forth. It shows you everything that you're going to need to know while playing this game. It's a really good touch. It's a really good feature. I really enjoyed it. And then my game crashed going through the tutorial. Another 10 minutes of disconnecting from the server, restarting the client, coming back in. We finally are able to get in and move our character around. And we get a bit of an idea, I should say, of where our character needs to move, how our character needs to move, all these different things. It actually ends up being like, okay, so it's aim-oriented, action-oriented combat. And it seems pretty fast. Your basic attack is your left mouse click, your heavy charged attack is your right mouse click. The scroll wheel is your block, which I thought was interesting. I'd have to remap that later. But the idea is that you would have all these different attack combinations. You can run, you can jump, you have a stamina bar that you have to pay attention to. You have a dodge bar. I mean, there's a lot of really good action-oriented stuff that's going here. So the bones there are pretty good. I'll give them that. They are. Once you actually get to the weapon aspect of the tutorial, how to swing your weapon, the mob doesn't spawn. There's supposed to be an orc here, and he doesn't spawn. At first, I think that this is my issue, so I go ahead and log out and try to come back in, and that eats up another 15 minutes waiting for the client to reload and for me to be able to get into the server and all that. just, again, bouncing back and forth. Eventually, we get in there, and I'm talking into the global chat, which you're able to talk to everyone there. And they're just like, hey, just give it time. It took like 5 minutes for my guide to load. Once it did, I was able to progress the tutorial. So I waited, and we were able to get through. Okay, cool. And then we see some other animations. We see a different type of enemy. And then I have a glitch where this enemy, where I'm killing him, which is the second enemy that you have to kill. And it gives me credit that he died, but it doesn't kill him. I'm able to pick up loot, but he's still sitting there attacking me. So I just run away because I'm like, all right, well, there's no point in fighting him because he's not really damaging me and I'm not really damaging him. And then we have to climb up this wall, and I climb up the wall and I get stuck because he teleports to me and somehow like roots me and then is just constantly attacking me. He's not going to kill me. He doesn't do enough damage, but I'm just sitting here in limbo. So I go ahead and hit the exit tutorial button, and then you can pick out your kind of like permanent stats, which I thought was actually a nice touch. You could choose a whole bunch of different things. Like I went with like the 2% critical strike, increases to mining and things like that. I actually really like that. That was a cool touch, a little customization, passive customization. And once this actually happens, we finally are past the tutorial and the game breaks again. And we load out and come back in. Once we actually get back in and I'm able to log in with my character, I'm here in the town, the very first town. Okay, cool. The town itself can't load any of the NPCs. There's no NPCs in the town whatsoever. Even outside the town, there's no people that you can talk to except for this harbor guard who I don't know anything about it, but we're waiting for this one captain. I think it's Captain Thorn, and it just never shows up, never populates, and people are flaming in game. They're like, this is stupid. Why am I playing this game? So I venture out, and the open world in this game is incredibly massive. This is one aspect I will give the game credit for. It is immense. There is so many different places that you can go and be at. And it seems like it is not like instanced. It's not like you're blocking off a single section. It seems like you can literally traverse from one part of Quinfall to the other. That was a cool touch. That shows a level of detail that I really like. And it's immense. It's a huge map. So I go out and I start killing some random wildlife. So thinking that, okay, I'll just at least level up. I'll do something like that. Well, apparently me killing all the wildlife, nothing actually happens. Like I'm in a safe zone, and when you're in the safe zones, you don't really get any experience or credit or anything like that. You have to go out into the wild. So I go out into the wild, and I still kill some of these guys, and I get nothing. Well, I decided that I was like, all right, well, I might as well just try to go and gather some stuff, I guess, what I can. So I start gathering some plants, and the plants are giving me experience. I actually get experience and level up to about level 3 just by harvesting plants. I'm playing Farm Simulator on this game. That's what ended up giving me the level, and it gives you more HP, gives you more magic power. It essentially moves your character, makes you a little bit stronger. Okay, cool. So I keep that in mind, walking my way through, and I switch to a great hammer just because I like the idea of a great hammer. And I start going over to some of these rifts. Now, these rifts pop up all over the place, and the main part of the story is that the Son of God has died. I could go in depth, but that's just a baseline. The Son of God, who was the leader of all man, has died, and he was holding the rifts at bay and all the evil at bay, and now that he's died, now the rifts are spawning up, so now it falls to us to go and stop them. That's, in a nutshell, what we're doing. The action combat in this game is pretty okay. It's pretty good. It feels weighted. It feels like there's good swings as you're going through. It's action direction oriented, so you have to aim where you're going. I'm on board for this. Sometimes one of the most annoying aspects is, like, especially with me using the great hammer, is that things swing forward. So every hammer swing, I'm moving forward. So you kind of have to time it a little bit better when characters or enemies are running by. So I group up actually with a couple of players, and we're clearing some rifts, and this part of the game was actually fun. The gameplay loop was fun. You're going clearing some rifts, you get some rift stones, you know, you have to kind of like plan out your abilities and where you're going. And of course, as you gain levels, actual levels, you get more health and get more magic. But the way that you progress your character's damage is by going through their weapon system. And again, I mentioned it's very much like New World, where you choose all the different weapon abilities that you want to use. And I just go through and populate my bar with all the hammer swinging goodness that I can have. And there's like an AoE buff for allies for 60 seconds. And there's like a retreat one that increases my defenses if I need to back out. So there's a bunch of diversity, and you're not locked into an individual category where they'll have 2 categories per each weapon. You could just choose one and go from there. That system I liked. I thought that was interesting, and it offers a lot of versatility as you're going through. I'm pretty sure, I didn't figure it out, but I'm pretty sure you can also do weapon swapping, very much like New World, where you'll have 2 different weapon combinations that you can swap through and use their different abilities. Anyway, as we're clearing a lot of this stuff and we're going through, one of the unfortunate aspects is the rubber banding. Rubber banding, if you're not familiar in MMOs, is where your character will keep on moving, everything's good, but you can't loot anything, you can't use any abilities, and then you will snap back 30 seconds to a minute backwards to wherever you were for the game to actually load. Now, this is something that I experienced a lot in Lord of the Rings Online in their older servers, and I think they're fixing those servers now, where there's less of that lag and jumping back and forth. And again, this is just the new player experience. This is the first day of the game, so I'll say that. But once you actually were into the combat and you were grouping up with allies, it was a lot of fun. Sometimes it's a little cheesy because I'm unsure of how the threat aggro works. I guess it's whoever's done the most damage to the target is the one that ends up getting attacked. So at one point, I'm literally just running around from these human morphs or these metamorphs, whatever they are, these giant like skin bags. I don't know what you want to call them. And they were all chasing me. So a lot of it was just me swinging, running around, swing, run around. And my allies are trying to pick off at them as I am running by. So it was interesting back and forth. One other thing that I actually thought was actually pretty cool about the game was the taming system. Now, I never really got around to the right materials, just mainly because I couldn't complete the first damn quest. I think you're supposed to get some of that stuff when you complete the first quest through Captain Thorn, but who never respawned for me, or never spawned for me. But you can sneak up to wild animals, wild chickens, cows, horses, sheep, things like that, and tame them if you are close enough, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that's going to be how you get a mount. That's how you get like farming and stuff like that, because it seems heavily emphasized in this game that there is your professions, like the different skills that you learn. I mean, they have everything. They have like, I think I saw Olympic trainers, or, you know, blacksmithing, weaponsmithing, armorsmithing, leatherworking. You have alchemy, you have construction, you have farming. There's all these different, like, pretty well done, we'll say, if they ever get around to implementing them, elements that make the game seem a lot more immersive, a true MMO experience. It isn't just always about the combat, it's about, well, hey, you know, like, here's some things that you can do on the side. And you can, as I showed, you could still progress your character just by harvesting or doing things like that on the side. That was a good touch. That was something that I very much enjoyed. Well, the farming goes on for a bit longer, and I eventually end up getting a mining pick from one of the enemies that I killed. So I used the mining pick to go ahead and start working on some of my mining and going through there. And I figured out what enemies I could take and how far I could really push my character. So eventually I got to a point that I understood, you know, like how the progression can go, even without the quests. I'm sure the quest will just go ahead and push the main story, the main art. But I will say in its current state, the open world and all that, it's okay. So that was my overall experience. I put about like 4 hours into the game, and I plan on putting more, so I'm not going to be necessarily refunding it because I feel like I'm taking the bullet for you guys so that you guys can understand the game a little bit better. My recommendation is that the game is not ready. The game is not worth your time yet. It has a lot of systems that could be very cool. It could have its very own unique, we'll say, style, its unique play, all that stuff. However, if you're looking for something that is polished and something that is, you know, user-friendly, this game, in my regard, is not going to be it. Now, this opinion could change as the game goes through early access and development. However, with a price tag of $20 and already pretty crazily negative reviews, I don't know necessarily if this game would even be able to survive. I don't know. I don't think so, just given how rough this launch was and what the overall sentiment goes. However, I also said that Throne and Liberty had a lot of kind of negativity going around with it, but that was just my opinion, just saying. And the game is still going, so I very well realize that I could be wrong. Between the server issues, the NPCs not loading, the rubber banding, it just makes for a very poor user experience, and I feel like it's going to leave a lot of bad tastes in people's mouth. That is my take. We'll see if that changes over time as I play the game more, or as the game goes through early access. But in that regard, I would say it's not worth your time or money right now. Now, there was another MMO that released into early access that I've been thoroughly enjoying, and that is Pantheon: Rise of the Fallen. It is a classic MMORPG. You basically are out on your own and good luck. And it's one game that is very rewarding in the aspect of just progressing your character. Anyway, I made a new player experience video here. You can see it. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.